There we go. Yeah, welcome to Encore Drinks. My name is George. You may have emailed me in the past. I've had at least 3 people come up to me and say, I recognise your face from the bottom of the emails, so thank you for that feedback. You may see me on the community page, leading a live stream help session for musicians, or maybe you've got no idea who I am. But I'm a producer, a guitarist, singer, songwriter, but more importantly, I've been working at Encore for nearly 4 years, and I lead musician support and community here. So first of all, why don't I just introduce the Encore team who are here. So over there we have Tommy. Tommy, why don't you wave to everyone? Everyone. Dan's at the back there, Dan Pucky, when you wave. We have, who else we've got? Fergus is just here, Sam is here, Charlie's here, and I think the rest of them are at the bar, so that sums it up. Yeah, basically I'm in charge of making sure that the community of musicians who use Encore are heard, they're helped out, and they have a voice, and I help by running these events. So if you don't have a good time tonight, you can blame James and Jonny who hired me, not me. Yeah, so basically, let's just say since I've been working here for the last 4 years, it hasn't been the most straightforward 4 years to help our musicians. All sorts happened in the music world and in the rest of the world as well. But it's a really tricky time for musicians at the moment, but I'm really, really excited for what's to come for all the musicians that work with Encore. So yeah, this is Encore Drinks. Hello to the regulars if you've been before. Some of you will have been to an Encore drink before. Some of you will have been on the platform for ages but never come down. And welcome to you. And some of you may be new to this whole Encore thing, have never had a booking through Encore, still sort of trying to figure it out. So I'd especially like to welcome you and definitely speak to as many people as possible. Yeah, so basically Encore Drinks started, Encore started I think around 9 years ago, and everyone, all the people who worked there, which was I think was 3 or 4, decided to start meeting up with the musicians on a regular basis, having drinks with them and discussing what the sort of biggest issues facing musicians were at the time, and then try and find a way with the way we work with Encore or with the product to try and fix them. So that's where we've kind of led up to until the pandemic, and then the pandemic we went online, and you may have come to one of our Encore drinks online, which were very fun, and we could get people from all over the country, but nothing really replaces meeting people that use the products every day in person like this. So yeah, I want to do a quick show of hands. Who here is a solo musician to start with? Who mostly plays solo? That's quite a lot of you actually. I'm quite surprised at that. And how many of you are group or band leaders or playing a band? Good contingent as well, good contingent. So I'd say in both of those career paths, you meet tons of customers, tons of wedding goers, tons of event goers, but you don't always meet loads and loads of musicians. We're kind of all in this position where we don't necessarily have loads of colleagues. So tonight, this is a chance to meet your colleagues as well. And yeah, I basically want to go over the schedule for this evening. So coming up, we have an update from Jonny, who is our head of artist growth. He is stepping in for James, who's our CEO, who sadly was unwell this evening, so wasn't able to make it. And then we're going to have a chat to some small groups about some of the biggest challenges facing Encore, how to quote effectively, that kind of thing. And then I'm going to introduce Mark, who's a musician who joined less than a year ago, and he's been absolutely raking in the bookings. I can't tell you how many bookings he's got so far. It's just outrageous. So he's got a lot of wisdom to share with you. And then we're going to open up the floor to questions from you guys. We're going to have a jam. There's open mic. If you want to play a tune, speak to Jonny. He's going to be organising that. And I know a few have signed up already. And then finally, we're going to just have a bit more mingling, have a bit more fun. If you've got a profile clinic scheduled with one of the team, then that'll be after this as well. So, quick, cheesy icebreaker. Sorry, I've got to do it. Which is the first song you learned to perform? And what was the most recent song you learned to perform? Speak to the person next to you. If you came with that person, you can't speak to them, so you've got to turn around and speak to someone else. All right? And yeah, I'll give you 2 minutes, and you've got to choose one of you to report back to me as well. So give them 2 minutes. Go. Okay, hands up if you heard a good song from someone. Go on, why don't you share? Hey, that's you, I'm talking to you, yeah.
song was the final countdown.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Anyone else get a good song? Go on, Dennis.
Robert's drummer, and a bit of singing. His first tune, I should have gone back further. My first was for a record. On the drummer, he said it was Do a Deer. On the
Year 5 assembly on the steel drums.
Yeah, I love that. Steel drums, huge fan. Lovely. Well, now I'd like to introduce you to my colleague Jonny, who's sitting next to me. Jonny is the head of artist growth here at Encore. You on?
Hello.
There you go. You've been working at Encore for 8 years. 8 years. So he's been here since the very, very early days. He's been working tirelessly to making the life of working musicians easier and easier. And he's trying to bring live music to more and more people. And he's doing a really good job. And he hired me, so that's a bonus. So yeah, thank you, Jonny.
Thank you very much, George. So a bit about me, I am a drummer. My parents are both music teachers, studying music, and I met James, the CEO, at university. We went to a cafe and had a drink, and he was like, I've got this idea. We're planning to build a platform to make it really easy to book musicians. Do you want to join me? And I was like, sure. Joined as an intern for a few months, and 8 years later, I'm still here. So hopefully something is going right, or I am deluded. But yeah, I love working at Encore. I've been here for so long, and the team's amazing. And George is just one of the amazing members of the team. Cool, so I'm just going to give you a very brief introduction to what we've been working on recently. I already just seen this presentation, so a bit of a disclaimer. James was going to be here, sadly he's not. So let's get started. Me. What is new at Encore at the moment? So first of all, I thought it'd be worth introducing some of the newer team members. So team members at the back, if you are new, that is, if you've joined within the last year, I'm going to say, can you come up to the front, please? And we'll introduce you. Don't be shy. Yeah, round of applause. Do you want to come on stage? Go on. There's people on the live stream who want to see you. It's been specifically requested. So many. Okay. We need a bigger stage. Cool. So, briefly, let's go down the line. Name, favorite band, job, favorite band / artist.
Hi everyone, so I'm Dan, I'm growth leader at Encore, so it's my job to get more traffic to the website so that you get more bookings. Favourite band? I'm probably going to say Arctic Monkeys. And that's that.
Hello, my name's Dan as well. Disclaimer, I was the first Dan hired here. And Dan, the second one, had to join. No, but I am the B2B account manager here, so I manage all the relationships with all of our businesses, corporate clients, bars, restaurants, everyone like that. And my favourite band is... Oh, I don't know what. I can't think. Not band, artist, Paolo Nutini.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm the second Sam by about 5 years. Oh, I don't know how many years you're with them. Actually, you've been here for ages. Oh, just a year, fine. I run the development team, so if you have any like bugs on your profile or anything like that, just go and talk to somebody else and yeah, favourite band, Smashing Pumpkins.
Hi everyone, I'm Charlie. I work in the sales team as a bookings expert. Favourite artist, probably Bad Bunny.
I'm Fergus. I work as a bookings expert as well with Charlie, so we're going to try and get you books up. And favourite artist is Radiohead.
Hi, I'm Manisha. I joined as Chief Financial Officer about 4 months ago. My favourite band is the Foo Fighters.
Hi, I'm May. I'm part of SEO content, and my mind's gone completely blank.
It's your first day.
Yes, it's my first day. Yeah.
First day.
Thanks so much, guys. Feel free to take a seat. Round of applause, please. Particularly Ava May, you really jumped straight in at the deep end. So these new hires are all part of our overall strategy at the moment at Encore, which is around growth. Essentially, providing a better service for you guys and more bookings, a smoother platform. Sam is a new developer, and I'm sure many of you would have found parts of the site that you think could need improvement. Part of the reason we're hiring developers is to build new products, new features that make your life easier when you're using the platform. So for me personally, it's a super exciting time. To give you a scope of the hiring, I think we've hired around about 10 new people in the last year. And for most of the time I've been at Encore, it's been around about 5 to 10 people. So the team's pretty much doubled in size recently. Cool. Another great thing is we have raised a new round of investment. You might have seen, if any of you follow us on LinkedIn or on our social media, we've recently been running a Crowdcube campaign. Crowdcube is basically a fundraising site for raising funds as a company. And today is the last day of it being live. We've raised £616,902 in the last month, which is great. That's going to go straight into improving the platform for you guys and enables hiring and product features that I mentioned. Yeah, all of these investors, 361 investors, are backing us to become the best place in the world for booking incredible musicians. That's our mission, that's what drives us, that's why we get up in the morning. We want to build the best place to get bookings. So what does this mean for you? Firstly, as you might have seen with Ava May, we're investing in marketing and search engine optimization. That essentially means we're trying to get Encore higher up in Google search results. That means more inquiries coming in, more opportunities for you to bid for work, and overall better take-homes for you. We're also developing partnerships with venues and businesses that book music regularly. So you might have noticed Dan Puckey, who is actually, by the way, an artist himself. I know he couldn't think of an artist as his favorite artist, probably because it's him. He is doing an amazing job securing partnerships with venues around the country. These could be wedding venues. We're now an exclusive provider of musicians for a number of wedding venues around the UK. So when a customer comes to a wedding venue and says, what musicians do you have available, they'll point the customers to Encore. And recently as well, Dan's been working with Coke Brasserie to provide them with saxophonists. And Carlo, you've been one of those saxophonists. Amazing. Yeah, we provided, I think, around 35 saxophonists for Coke Brasserie around the country, maybe more.
There's been, I think, over 150 events now in the past.
150 events for Coke. Yeah.
5 months.
Great work. So yeah, these kinds of corporate bookings, you can expect to see more of those on Encore. The majority of bookings still are for weddings, but yeah, Dan and other members of the B2B team are working on that. We're also upgrading the website and the app. As I alluded to, members of the team like Sam have newly joined, and they're working on building more features, better software, and our mission is to make Encore easy to use and to reduce the amount of admin load you guys have to do. Immediate changes, things you can expect to see in the next few weeks. First of all, we're going to be simplifying the way that quoting works on Encore. One of the bits of feedback we've had recently is it takes quite a lot of time to work out your quote when you're entering it on the site. And one of the problems is when you enter a quote, you have to factor in our commission. So if you want to get a take home of 400 quid, you need to think, oh, okay, actually, my quote needs to be 500 quid. We've had lots of feedback over the years from musicians saying, why can't I just enter my take home and you calculate whatever your commission is on top? So we've decided to make that change, and that's going to be going live. So that should make it much simpler for you when you're quoting on Encore. You work out what you want, you enter what you want, and we calculate the rest on top. It'll take a bit of getting used to for some people who've used the platform for a while, but it's something we've been asked time and time again from musicians for. So we decided to make that shift. Yeah, like I said, one of the most popular requests from musicians, I want to enter my take home, i.e. like the net fee first, and have Encore calculate the quote for me, not the other way around. So just to kind of put that in writing, with the old system, that is like what's working now, you would enter a total quote of £500, and then you would get £400 as a net fee. So that's minus our 20% service fee. With the new system, you would enter £400, and then we would calculate the total quote with our commission on top as £500. So it's a small difference, but we think on aggregate it will save you a lot of time and a lot of brain power that you don't really want to be using calculating quotes on Encore. Thanks very much. We're also going to be increasing customer budgets. Another bit of feedback we've had is that sometimes customers will add inquiries to the site and the budgets will be too low, or they won't be high enough, the rates won't be high enough. One of our guiding principles as a business is we want to make sure when people get work on Encore, it's always fairly paid. So we've decided to raise the customer budgets, and you can expect to see higher budgets coming in from about the next few weeks. So overall, it should mean higher take homes for you guys. We're going to be monitoring it closely. Obviously, if you raise prices, the risk is that customers go somewhere else. We have a team of 5 salespeople who make around about 500 calls to customers every day. So we'll be the first people to know about it if you guys start to get fewer bookings, and we'll adjust that very carefully and monitor it very carefully. So yeah, budgets are increasing, and we've been updating price estimates we show to customers when they create inquiries with us. So yeah, just to put that in numbers, you can expect to see approximately 10 to 15% increase in minimum budgets on Encore. We're also, this is a kind of a summary slide, so healthier budgets for customers, higher earnings. We're also going to make quoting flexible up to 25%. Another bit of feedback we've had is that sometimes you might need to quote slightly above what a customer said is their maximum budget. We've taken that on board, and we're now going to allow you to quote up to 25% above that. It's obviously a bit of a risk if a customer said the maximum is £1,000 and you enter £1,250, and we'll mention that to you when you quote. But sometimes customers are willing to flex it a little bit, and we want to give you that feature. So, first of all, if anyone has any questions on those particular changes, I'm very happy to take them. Sorry, what's your name?
Laura.
Laura.
So the percentage, just if we put in what we're going to take, maybe say it's 400, what is that percentage, just so we know, because it's going to be slightly more than 20%. To make it 500 was like 20.
So the percentage that we're talking about is always the total quote. So the total quote to the customer is £500, and the £100 that's our service fee is 20%. So our service fee stays the same.
In our minds, we'll be thinking 20% on for the 400 we put in, but that would only be 480. So that it's really transparent for us to put in our quoting. Should we be thinking in our head 22% is going to be 25%?
So yeah, you could think of it that way. The way that we think of it is like our commission is a total of the whole quote. So yeah, to get to £500 from £400, that is plus 25%. To get to £400 from £500 is 20%.
But for us, we're going to think about it the opposite way, because we're just going to have the figure that we're going to quote. So it's quite good for us to have in our head, right, we're going to add 25%, and that's what the customer's going to see.
Sure.
It will be useful.
Yeah, and you'll still be able to see what the overall quote is whenever you quote, so it'll be totally transparent. Yeah, and it's worth mentioning as well, our commission includes VAT, so if any of you are VAT registered, you can claim that back. So, yes, so like the overall quote includes travel. Yeah. Jess.
Because we never see it from a customer's perspective. So when you enter in the details for a job, do you say to them, this job would usually pay this amount of money? Is that what you're saying? You sort of say to them to put their budget within a certain amount?
Yeah, exactly. It'd be useful to have a screenshot.
Because obviously some people don't, like, some people that have never booked a musician before don't know, and they're like, controversial.
Completely, yeah, and that's a lot of what our sales team do is educating customers about the appropriate rates to give to musicians to make sure they're getting professional rates for professional work. When a customer enters an inquiry on the site, they go through a list of stages in a form. One of those stages is how much budget do you have for this gig, and they'll see a minimum and a maximum range.
Right.
What we're changing is like how low they can pull that slider. So they can't pull that slider all the way down to like £50. For most gigs, it would be like a minimum around about 200.
Just to note on that side of things, sometimes you get a quote come through and it'd be like the budget is, for example, 230 to 250. So if I don't know whatever amount for which you're willing to pay that money, but sometimes that would only allow you to put in, let's say, like a £20 travel fee, when actually you want a more of a travel fee and less of a performance fee. But there's no way to do that, so you'd have to put, if you want the job, you'd have to put £230 with a £20 travel fee, so it fills their budget. It's like, well, actually, I need £50 travel fee.
So they make your budget.
Yeah, so then the overall quote, what they pay is like, is within their 250, but I sort of, like, got my travel, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think.
Happened, I'm like, okay, I can only put £20 travel in, for instance, like, because the budget, they've only put £20 in the low and the high.
Right, so I think there's maybe two issues you're talking about here. One is that sometimes the gap between the minimum and the maximum budget is too small. So one thing we're doing with that is we're adding minimum maximum budgets, if that makes sense. We're going to limit how low someone can pull a maximum budget in relation to the minimum budget. And the second thing, which I think is around flexibility, with that kind of max budget limit, being able to quote an additional 25% above the quote, I think should help with that. Because at the moment you're hitting that maximum, I think. So yeah, there's sort of two ways that we're trying to address that at the moment, but it's a good point. And it's feedback that we've had that's led to this change.
Because I think also sometimes there's like a fixed fee, like the client wants to pay £450, but then that doesn't include my travel, so I have to sort of put in my travel, and then it's just like, oh, it's £480. So there's that as well.
Excuse me, I just wanted to say that I don't know why you have this issue, because I just put always the travel on the top. So even I have the limit like 200 or 250, when I see I need another 50 for travel, I always put that.
I think she means like it just then goes above the client.
Oh, yes, but
so then it's like if you risk losing the job, then
I know, but it is a risk, and if you want to make money, so you can't really just put low. So if everybody would put quite high, then they would just choose the quality and what they actually want, like a style, rather than to pick the price.
Yeah, so we are, with these new budget minimums and maximums, we are factoring in travel. Obviously, travel's different depending on where you are in the country, but we're factoring in an average amount for travel. Henrietta?
Can the customer see the difference between travel and the normal quote? So do they see what we put in as the travel expense, or do they just see the overall?
They just see the overall amount. So we looked at what other sites do. I think it tends to be general practice that a customer just sees a single quote. So yeah, it's kind of a simplicity thing. We don't tend to have customers ask for a breakdown, and it makes things much simpler with all of their emails, just them knowing, okay, I need to pay X amount.
I think it's great, all this stuff I've been watching happen over the years. The travel thing, like just mentioned, sometimes I put the fee and that's it. Travel zero.
Yeah.
Oh, that would make it for the client not charging the travel.
Yeah.
Not having to travel. Last week was one of a fairly trying to get a local trumpet player. That's not fair. Like the local trumpet player is not much cost and cheap, but you know, we've got to need not travel. And explaining the tempo thing, change the tempo. So, what do you think about scrap travel together? I mean, you put within the fee, we put, yes, it's going to be 100 quid travel, therefore it's going to be 500 or 400. If you put 100 quid, 400 quid the fee, £100 travel, 500 quid, what's the difference? Just put it all in one. I think it's quite confusing. But one thing I did like you did was sometimes for the band, you put last time previously you quoted 250 quid for the musician. I like that idea. Straight away you give us a bit of an idea, which is much better than the 80s when we were struggling in bands. I mean, I felt that we used to say to the client, so how much is it? I said, it's free. The gig's free. It travels like 2,000 quid.
So I think if I understood correctly, what you're saying is the performance fee and travel might not necessarily need to be quoted separately. So that's again a bit of feedback we've taken on board with this change. So what we're changing it to is the take home, we're going to be calling it your net fee, just for clarity. You say what your net fee is, inclusive of travel, inclusive of anything else you might need to pay for with this particular gig, and then the customer just sees a single fee. So yeah, that's the change we're making.
So yeah, thank you for Jonny. I was going to have a break here, but I think we should probably crack on so we're not all really late home. I wanted to introduce someone who has been absolutely killing it on Encore at the moment. And I think there's a lot we can learn from him. He signed up to Encore, I think, in November, and he already has 69 bookings, 45 of them taking place this year, which is just like silly numbers. And yeah, I just wanted to make some noise of him, and I think that there's a lot we can learn from him. So can you just give a round of applause for Mark Ellis? Thanks, Mark. Thanks for joining us. You've got the train down from up north, is that right?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Where have you come from?
From Yorkshire.
From Yorkshire. Well, this is especially flown in. So yeah, 69 bookings in less than a year.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell? That's a huge amount. Can you, right, first of all, why don't you tell us how long you've been gigging for, how many gigs you were getting before that, and then also how you found out about Encore and how you kind of got started?
So I've been playing professionally for 18 years, saxophone. In fact, before I answer all your questions, I think it's really important that I say at the outset that I'm one of these Ibiza saxophonists, and that particular genre, if you like, has just gone crazy in the last few years. So, as I can literally feel the hate towards me right now, but what I would say is you need to temper my responses to that, because you might not be in that type of style of performing, and there's a massive demand for that at the moment, and I'm just riding that wave, basically. Okay, so I started playing 18 years ago. I'm a jazz sax player by trade, and but I did do the Ibiza thing back in the 90s. And it just went crazy over during lockdown. Yeah, there you go. It became a thing, you know, you could only have 30 people doing it in a garden party, and you could only have one person blowing or singing or whatever it was. So it kind of took off then. And what was the question? Sorry, I forgot. So 18 years I've been playing.
Yeah, I wanted to know sort of before November when you signed up, how much were you working? How often were you doing it? Were you doing it full time? And then how did you find out about it?
Okay, so I think I joined in January, didn't I?
I checked. I think it was the end of last year, but you might not have got going with it until January.
I don't think I did my profile until January when it got quiet. But basically, I used to have a lot of bands that I still do, but they've gone quiet now. And I had like a mini micro agency that was like just a boutique type thing where I live. And I was spending so much time doing admin, running different bands, and then stressing out because the drummer would let me down, or no offense to drummers. a bass player, or even a sax player. And it was getting a bit stressful. And then the Ibiza sax thing was starting to take off as we were coming out of lockdown. I really enjoy that type of music. I was, young in the 90s, and although I'm a jazz player by trade, I love dance music. So I quite enjoyed the fact that I got to do this, a resurgence of this thing that I was doing when I was a kid. And I realised there's very little admin. Socially, it's not great, but I can probably make more money per hour than I would in a band, and I didn't have any of the stress. So I was doing a gig with Jodie Young Cooper, who's a really good DJ that's on Encore. Done quite a few with her. And she was telling me, oh, you need to get on this thing called Encore. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Because I'm on a lot of agencies. I'm on a Live Network and Instagram Nation, stuff like that. And I just thought, I just haven't got time for yet another platform. And then she kept, every time I'd see her, every couple of weeks at a gig, she'd be like, you've got to sign up to it. So anyway, it came to January. I signed up in, obviously, in November. It came to January. Obviously, very quiet time for us all. So I thought, well, I'll have a look at this Encore thing. And I spent about 3 or 4 days just basically updating my profile to the best that I could. And then within a few days, I started getting inquiries, and I got a gig really quickly. And I thought, oh, and it was like in February, March, when I had nothing, no gigs coming in at all. And basically, I think I got about 8 gigs in March or something crazy like that. And it filled up March for me out of nowhere. So I thought, this is working.
Can I just touch on that? I think that's really interesting. Clearly, you spend a lot of time on your profile because it's, I don't know if you can see here, but you know how when you're editing your profile, there's like a profile strength score of like all the things the customers have requested, how many of them do you have? And you got 100% straight away. You clearly spent a lot of time building out your profile, making sure all the sort of requirements were ticked. Can you kind of speak to how you build your profile and that, like how long that took you and how often you update that?
Okay, so profile aspect. First of all, I'll talk about the academy. So I did the academy very quickly, and everything that is in the academy in terms of the advice they give you about your profile, I followed it to the dot. So they would say you need to talk about certain things in your profile. So I did that, just followed everything that it said, added as many decent photographs as I could, put all the songs in. And then I think it came to the reviews, and obviously I had no bookings on Encore, so I had no reviews on Encore. So what I did was I got some old reviews, and I think I sent them to you guys and said, these are valid reviews from previous clients, please can you add them? So I got 20 reviews like straight out the gate. And I just look, very fortunately, again, a lot of this is luck. It's not like I'm not a genius or anything like that. A lot of it is luck. And unfortunately, in January, a good friend of mine was having her 50th birthday, and she was totally going over the top with it. And she hired, myself and bongo player and a DJ, and she was going to get a videographer to do the whole thing. So I said to the videographer, can I pay you to take some of the footage to make a promo video of myself on the side? And he agreed to it. So the first 2 promo videos are just clips from that party, and he's edited it in such a way that it makes it look like I'm just killing it on the dance floor, and it's not necessarily what happened on the night. That actually wasn't that busy.
That's so funny. That's like my next question.
Actually, that one showed up, but I got a really good promo video out of it, and it's one of the things that people mention when they get in touch. They love the video.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next. Is like you've got some great videos. They're like simple but so professional, and I think they go a long way to winning you a lot of the clients. I was going to ask you how you go about making those, but it sounds like you've just answered that. But
I just said to the videographer, can you get? This is really important as well, and it's really important that your video kind of like replicates what you're trying to do on the gig. So obviously my job is to be on the dance floor and get people up dancing. So I said to him, anytime there's more than one person on the dance floor with me, just shoot that. And that's what he did. And interestingly, I get hardly any jazz gigs, even though that's my thing, because my jazz video is not like that. So years ago, I made this really artsy jazz video with lots of different, like multi-screen, of me going into a studio with my quartet, playing some jazz. And I thought it was a really cool video, and I don't hardly get any bookings because that's not what the client wants. The client wants to see their guests maybe dressed up, having a nice drink with some cheesy jazz in the background, dressed in bow ties and stuff like that. And so that's my next project, is to create that video, because I think what you have to do is visualize what they think they want, not what you think they want. And I know that is definitely, you know, I just know that, like, why am I only getting booked for Ibiza stuff and not the jazz stuff? And I think it's down to the videos.
That's one of the biggest pieces of advice we always give to musicians who come to us and say, like, what does the customer want, not just from the video, but also from your cover note, your messages. I think the biggest thing you can do, and sort of take something from like a salesy approach, is to sort of make it all about the customer rather than about you. Like, a lot of musicians will start by saying, here's my credentials, here's why I'm the perfect, here's my background, and really customers kind of just a bit sort of selfish and just want to hear about their event. And if you can say, here's the vibe that I'll make for your event, here's what I'll get your guests to do, here's what I'll bring to your event, then I think they're way more receptive to that. And I think that your video does that.
Yeah, that's what I've tried to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move on to quoting. How important is pricing for you? Are you like rigid in your pricing? Do you adapt them to the budgets? Do you have loads of different fees for different packages? Especially at a time that's difficult financially for everyone, how like rigid are you in your pricing, and how do you approach that?
Okay, so I'm not rigid at all. In fact, I'm the opposite of that. So just again, a bit of background as to why I might be successful relatively is that I have massively dropped my prices to suit Encore's clients. So basically, I took a massive punt at Christmas and decided that I didn't want to teach anymore, like most of us do probably. Topping up my income by teaching, and just for reasons at home, I needed to be at home more in the evenings, and that's when I was doing my teaching. So I said, right, I'm going to jack in all the teaching, and I have to get more gigs, which is why I then jumped on Encore and started doing the profile, and it worked well very quickly. But I definitely will take less money if it's a weekday, if it's more local. You know, if it's a Wednesday in March, I'm not going to charge the same as I'm going to charge for a Saturday in August. That's just common sense, obviously. I'm sure you all know that anyway. But what I've done more than that is I've basically travelled to Timbuktu and back for, you know, I wouldn't say a measly sum, but I've definitely probably charged the same. I did a gig in Cheltenham for you guys a few weeks back, and I probably charged the same that someone from Cheltenham would charge, but it took me 5 hours to get there and back. But it was a Sunday, and I need to make money, basically, just because of the situation at home. So I have massively lowered my fees, but then there's sometimes when, if it's a prime day, and I know that I could get something direct back home, just from word of mouth and previous clients, I'll keep the price as it is and still get the booking. So it's very much dependent on when it is, who it is, and how desperate I am that month to get another gig.
Nice. And just one on communication before we wrap up. How, like, as we all know, there are so many inquiries all the time, so many different customers coming from different angles. How do you handle your messages to potential clients? How much time do you spend on each inquiry? How do you manage that time versus inquiries from your own direct website or through social media? How do you sort of manage your time? Is basically what I'm trying to ask customers.
Right. In the modern era, managing time is difficult, obviously. So first of all, in terms of Encore, I've got, I think, about 12 different cover note templates that are all written specific to the demographic of the gig, if you like. So I've got like a daytime wedding and an evening wedding. I've got a Ibiza wedding, a jazz wedding. So they're all written to such a kind of like, just in such a way that I've got to edit it very, very little. So it usually takes me about 2 minutes to quote for a gig, just by copy and pasting that cover note, editing a few details and sending it off. The other thing that I think has been really beneficial to me is that as soon, and this isn't possible for everyone, but because I don't teach now and I'm not doing nothing, but I'm at my laptop a lot during the day. As soon as I get a notification about a gig, I jump on it straight away. And I think I've got a 1 hour response time on my thing. And a lot of the feedback that I get, because I knew I was doing this, I emailed about 20 Encore clients and asked them why they picked me. The things that came back were the speed of response, the quality of the video, and the reviews. There was other stuff as well, but I think the three things that came up the most were those were the three things. So basically, I will, as soon as I get a notification, I'll jump on my laptop and just bang out a quote.
That's really smart advice. And I think you said to me beforehand, which is maybe a bit maverick, but I think it's really worth just showing like how much you put your thought into this. Is you made a couple of fake inquiries to kind of see what musicians are doing. Can you like talk about that?
Yes. So I used a different email to inquire about a gig that never existed in the first place, just to see what type of responses I would get, and just compare how I would do it to what they were doing. Some things were good and I took their ideas, and some things weren't so good. And then the other thing that I did was I went actually into Encore as somebody else and looked at the top 5 to 7 sax players that do what I do, just to see what they were doing and get some ideas from them.
Well, that's very smart. Yeah, okay. And finally, why don't you just wrap up? What's one piece of advice you give to musicians who are looking to get gigs on Encore and maybe haven't got going with their journey yet?
I'm just hustle. I think that's all I've done. I've just basically been hustling all angles. I'm trying to be quick. I'm accommodating as I can be. I price, competitively. I think that's it really. Just try and be on it as much as you can. I know it's frustrating. There's probably people here that maybe haven't had a booking yet, or very few compared to how many they apply to. But what I will say is that I think if you just keep going, and I know it sounds a bit woo-woo, but if you believe in yourself and if you know that you can do a good job and deliver what that person wants, then tell them that. There's nothing wrong with saying, I know that I'm good. Obviously not that way, but there's other ways to do it. And just do it as much as you can, and update your profile often as well.
Mark, thank you so much. Before I go on to the next bit, I wonder if any musicians in the audience have any questions for Mark. If you do, raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone over. Does anyone want to pick your brain about anything? Anyone online? We've also got some people on chat as well, looking on the live stream. Anyone got any questions?
Let me just skim through, I'll get back to you.
If anyone wants to chat after this, I've got to go about 10 tonight, but I'm happy to give anybody any tips or feedback if they want to.
Amazing. Well, why don't we give a round of applause to Mark anyway? And just finally on that, I did ask 2 musicians to come along. Another one was Wura, who leads a gospel choir, and she's done 140 bookings with Encore, and she's absolutely amazing. And she was going to be on this panel with us tonight, but she's really unwell, unfortunately. But she did give me some advice. She said, she echoes what Mark said. She says she always applies to 10 gigs a day. I'm not recommending that's healthy, but that's what she does. She has great cover notes, as Mark said, so she has a match for every single type of event that comes in, just ready to go. And she says the chances of booking increases if you're ready for all these different types of acts. She said content is king, so make sure every gig you do, get good pictures and videos of highlights, and make sure that she has new content all the time. Add it to your profile, add it to your Instagram, and speak to all the videographers at events, just like Mark said as well. Most of them are happy to send you content from the event. And finally, she also echoed another thing Mark said, which is have different price packages to suit almost every different budget. Have some price points for really high-end customers, and have some for the ones that are just coming in, and maybe you could offer them a slightly lesser package, but something that will meet them and have that compromise, and you win many more bookings, and yeah, make a living through gigs.